What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Patriot Specialized. Today's episode, we've got this whatever this thing's called. It's a rotor. That's what it is. We got a rotor. We're dropping off in New Jersey, but we're just all we did today was drive over here. So stick around. We'll be right back. Creeping up the list of probably the coolest stuff I've ever hauled. We're gonna go hunt for Ewoks. I really wish I had like a Darth Vader or a Stormtrooper helmet I could put on while I was going to deliveries.
Black smoke and white line, steel horses side by side. It's more than just a living, y'all.
Oh man.
It's all way of life.
That grease on my pants. Dang it. It's supposed to be like that. But the longer you look at this thing, the worse it gets. Like,
if you're out here riding with me, come on back and make some noise. We're the last of the cowboys.
Alright guys, so things don't always work out the way you think they're going to. I took this load, ran it home on Friday, picked it up Wednesday, ran it home, got home Friday. Supposed to deliver today. Thought I was going to have to leave the house super early, which I was able to do, and I'm going to explain that here in a minute. Thought I was going to have to leave super early, but it turns out that a refinery, this thing's going to Refinery, which has two problems. First one being what is happening right now. Turns out that they are observing Columbus Day, and they are not open today. How a refinery is not open on Columbus Day, I don't know, but that is the case, and that's what I'm dealing with right now. So we are currently sitting in Paulsboro, New Jersey. We are about 4 minutes away from our delivery. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Got here a little early, which makes it real nice for parking, not gonna lie. Easily found a parking space right up front. Yeah, right up front. So that was nice, but we're sitting here doing absolutely nothing for a while until we get this thing delivered. And I'm really hoping that the delivery tomorrow morning goes pretty fast. It's only one pick. Just pick it up, take it off, be out of there. Unfortunately, there's something else that I have to do in order to make delivery on this thing. But first, I wanted to, since I didn't get a chance to last week, I did want to say I appreciate everybody's comments, everybody's thoughts and whatnot on Tango passing away last week. That was super cool, everybody. Got a lot of great comments, and I appreciate everybody taking the time to make a comment. It was tough situation. We got him buried in a great spot this weekend. And we're gonna move on. Like it was tough. He's a great dog. As anybody who any of you guys that watch the channel that knew him, you can attest to the fact he was just a great dog. It's unfortunate, but these things happen, and you just you deal with it and move on. And unfortunately, fortunately, you guys got to see some raw emotion there. That was the day that it happened. So that was pretty rough that night. But it is what it is. These things happen, and it's part of life. What I always tell my friends, my theory on life is a sexually transmitted disease with a 100% mortality rate. That is the absolute truth. It is. I wish I could take credit for that being all my own, but I did hear that in a book. I listen to a lot of books while I'm trucking, and I did hear that in a book. So without me rambling on here a little bit, I wanted to show you this load real quick. And then I had a question on one of the episodes about axle weights, and I'm not exactly sure what he's looking for me to explain, but I'm going to do my best to get that explained. But at first I wanted to show you what we got on right now. Now you guys saw me pick this up on the last episode before the whole debacle with Tango happened, and I didn't film any of the actual load, but in there I had said, in the beginning I said we were going to need to tarp it, and then by the end we didn't have to tarp it. So I'm going to show you why real quick. So this is what we got. There's our baby right there. inside of this housing is a rotor. And I got lucky they put this one inside the housing so that I didn't have to tarp it. I can't see why in the world I would tarp that. But there was some question in the beginning. I did ask them if it still needed covered or not, and they're like, they actually had to go check. I don't know why, because it's pretty obvious it doesn't need tarped. But this thing weighs, as you guys saw the scale ticket on the last episode. We're coming in just barely overweight. We are legal dimensions. I took a remeasurement on it and we were a little bit crooked. So that part that was sticking off the trailer that I thought was making it oversized was not actually making it oversized. But it is we're legal dimensions, but we're overweight only. So what we got on this thing is, it is just over 33,000 pounds. Brought us in at about 82,000. You guys saw the scale ticket on it. And that is interesting for a couple different reasons. Number one, what we did for securement, before I get into those reasons, I over-secured the crap out of this thing because I wasn't sure how I was going to secure it with the getting half credit. So I put 2 chains on the back here, 2 chains on the front, almost the same way, except the front 2 are X'd. They go crosswise, and then I had 2 more out, so I just put them there in the middle. Pulling backwards, holding backwards on it, just in case I got slammed on the brakes. I don't want this thing moving. I don't know what is in there, if there's fluid or anything in there that could be sloshing around. It doesn't feel like it, didn't pull like there's anything in there. I think it's just a housing, but I wasn't sure at the time, so I wanted to make sure I had a little bit of extra weight, extra securement pulling back on it, so that if I had to slam on the brakes and there is any kind of fluid in there, when it shifts forward, it's not, I'm going to have a little bit of extra securement holding it from going anywhere. But the one reason this is interesting is, as you can see, I do not have signs and flags on it. I ran signs and flags in the beginning of this load for Texas all the way up into Ohio, and then after Ohio. The interesting part about this is that you don't require, overweight only does not require signs and flags. So I went ahead and took them off from Ohio, Pennsylvania into New Jersey here. Now, the reason I kept them on, there's a lot of states coming from Texas up to Ohio that it's not required on an overweight only load. There are some that were, so number one, I didn't want to take them on and off and on and off and on and off. That didn't make any sense. But number two, the other reason is, and something to keep in mind, is the Tennessee scales. When you're on an over-dimensional load and you're signed and flagged, you don't pull across the scale. There's a sign on the ramp going down to the scale that says, all permit loads, park and rear, report inside, present permit, or something of that nature. Basically, you go around back, you park, you take a permit inside. You don't even cross the scale. So they don't weigh you at all. They just send you around back, they look at your permit and send you on. And as long as your permit is good, they send you on your way. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to leave the signs and flags on leading from Texas to Ohio, because that avoids all of that BS crossing scales, avoids any concern whatsoever of axle weights being goofy or their scale not being the same as the scale that I scaled it on, or whatever the case might be. It avoids all that, and I just walk my permit inside, show it to them. As long as it's valid and accurate, then off you go. And of course it always is. So that's the reason for that. The other thing is, the reason that I took the signs and flags off is because Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, you can run it in the dark with overweight only. You're allowed to run 24/7 overweight only. So that allowed me to leave this morning as early as I wanted to leave. Now, had this place been open, I would have had to leave a lot earlier in order to make it down here to get delivery done on this thing today, which was the goal, and I really would have preferred delivering today, but it is what it is. So that is one of the other reasons that I took the signs and flags off and didn't bother running them. Carry my permit, ran the permit route, but just didn't have the signs and flags announcing that I'm oversized. Today is Columbus Day. There is no travel restrictions in the states that I'm in for Columbus Day. That is a beautiful thing. But there are, holidays, as we've talked about in the past. There are some states and some holidays that have travel restrictions. It's just fortunate that Columbus Day wasn't a big enough holiday, I don't think, for everybody to start putting. Now, New York City, some of those, the bigger ones, they still have travel restrictions. However, this entire route that I was running, I did not have a travel. So I'm here, ready to go for the morning. I'm gonna try to get over there about 6 o'clock in the morning, try to get this thing taken off and get out of here kind of early, because I got to go back over to York to load amphibious unit to go down to North Charleston, South Carolina. And in the route that I got to go to get out of here, it brings me just south of Philadelphia, crossing back over into Pennsylvania from New Jersey. And if I'm way too long on that, Philadelphia is a disaster for traffic, and I'm going to try to avoid that in the morning and try to make that timing to be a little bit better for a little bit quicker for getting out of here and getting over there to get loaded, because I have a load booked out after that needs to be picked up on Wednesday. So I really need to get to North Charleston, South Carolina as early as I can possibly get Wednesday morning to unload, so that I can make it back up to Clayton, North Carolina to reload before my appointment. I set my appointment time for the latest appointment time possible on that day, just in case this became a little bit of a disaster tomorrow. But I want to make sure, I want to do everything I can to make sure that I can get back up to Clayton before the end of the day on Wednesday and get that thing picked up, so we can run it back to Ohio and get it delivered Thursday as early as possible. And then the intention, I think, on Thursday is I will get that thing delivered in Columbus, drop it, unless something else really good pops up. I'm going to drop it, run up to the yard, switch trailers, grab the Conestoga, and we'll run Thursday and Friday with the Conestoga and probably the rest of next week. So that being said, there's one other thing about this particular delivery that I wanted to talk about. All right, guys, that last thing that I wanted to talk about this particular delivery here is because it's delivering to a refinery. Refineries, I don't know what they're refining out there. It's chemical of some kind. But in order to, when you're on the refinery, if something were to happen, a spill, a leak, an explosion, something like that, and there's chemicals in the air, the mask that they provide for you, so that you don't breathe that stuff in, has to seal around your face. So this particular delivery in most refineries, they won't allow you to have a beard. If you have a beard, it will not allow that mask to make proper seal on your face. So I'm gonna go inside here tonight when I get my shower, and my beard's gonna have to come off in order to make this delivery. I don't normally take loads that require me to alter my appearance, but this one, it was just a good load out of Texas. I didn't want to pass it up, so whatever. My beard will grow back, so it's not a big deal. It'll take a couple weeks and it'll be right back. So it's something that you the interesting about trucking that people probably wouldn't think of much, and I hadn't thought about it in a long time. But you do this particular delivery, I need to shave my beard off in order to make this delivery. And I was gonna play dumb and go in there and then just see what they say, but what I don't want to do is cause any sort of problem tomorrow morning where they turn me around and make me come shave my beard before I come in there and deliver. That would be terrible. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do it, be done with it, get it done, and tomorrow morning, hopefully 06, I'll roll in there as early as possible. Hopefully they'll be ready for me. I can just back under the crane, they can pop this thing off, and off I go. I'll get out of here, get through Philadelphia before traffic gets too bad, I really hope, and get over to York and get that amphibious unit picked up so we can get as many miles run off the North Charleston end of that. The other thing is, not only do I need to get as close to North Charleston as possible to help myself out on Wednesday, but also the other factor to consider there is I permitted straight down, because of the timing of when I'd be there, mid-morning, late morning, should be coming through Baltimore, DC midday, which typically is the best time for traffic to get through there, is right smack in the middle of the day. So that is another thing that I want to make sure that I can get out of here as quick as possible, get over there to get picked up as quick as possible. So at least when I run down into Baltimore and DC, I'm not going to waste a bunch of drive time sitting in traffic trying to get around those two cities. Hopefully my timing's good and we'll buzz right through it. It's about as good as you're gonna, midday is about as good as you're gonna get for both of those cities when you're traveling oversize and can't travel at night. Obviously nighttime, middle of night is the best time to travel through both of those, but without being that you can't travel at night with overdimensional, Maryland you can, so I can go through Baltimore, but DC you cannot. So That is, without being able to travel at night, the best time to go through those two cities is right smack in the middle of the day, right around lunchtime. That is generally where the least amount of traffic is, and hopefully this will all go the way I want it to tomorrow, and I'll get out of here earlier than I expect, or earlier than I had originally planned, or that could be possible. Hopefully I'll get out of here by 6:30, 7 o'clock, get back across through Philadelphia, get over there to York, get loaded. Hopefully by then I should be 10 o'clock, I should be getting out of there. Between 10 and 11 I should be getting out of York. That'll put me into Baltimore right about 12 o'clock, and then DC right after that. So we'll see. Let's see. You know, what do we say in the Marine Corps? No plan survives contact with the enemy. And generally, when you make a plan, at least for me, when I make a plan, the universe says, "Nah, nope, we're not doing that." So that we'll see what happens. There's one other thing I wanted to try to explain real quick. I got asked a question about axle weights and axle spacings, and I'm not 100% sure what you guys are after with that question, what you want to know. So if I don't answer it on this portion, let me know, and I'll do my best to either get the answer or try this again and get you the answer you need. But axle weights and spacing is basically used for overdimensional loads, overweight loads for axle spacings, and it's also used for legal loads to establish what's legal and what's not. Now, the way this normally runs with a 5-axle setup, standard truck and trailer, any truck and trailer out there in the world is a 5-axle, 1 steer tire, 2 drive tires, 2 trailer axles. That is 5 axles. Now, the way they break down the weight on that is you're legally allowed to have 12,000 pounds on your steer tires, 34,000 pounds on your drive tires if it's a 4-foot 6-inch spread, and then 34,000 pounds on your trailer tires if it's a standard tandem 4-foot 6-inch spread. Now, the way that works is that you add those three together, you come up with 80,000. You're allowed 80,000 pounds gross. That includes the weight of the truck and trailer and the load. So gross vehicle, you cannot be more than 80,000 pounds to be legal. Now, when you're permitting a load, or there was one way to adjust that a little bit without having a permit is if you have a spread axle. You'll see a lot of flatbeds out there that have spread axle trailer where there's the 2 back axles, instead of being real close together, they're spread apart. And what we call that, normally we call that a 10-foot spread. On the 10-foot spread, you can put 40,000 pounds. They give you 20,000 pounds per axle. You can put 40,000 pounds on those 2 axles back there. However, in order to stay legal, you can put, say, 38,000 pounds instead of, you get 6,000 pounds more that you can put on that. However, you have to adjust for that 6,000 pounds somewhere else, because you still got to stay under 80. So if you were to do 12,000, 34,000 on your drives, and 40,000, you would actually be grossing 86,000 pounds, and you're not allowed to do that. That is overweight. So you have to, if you're going to put 40,000 pounds on your spread axle trailer, you have to adjust the steers and the drives somehow and put less weight on them in order to account for the more weight you put back there. So it's kind of a balancing act, and it's tricky, and it's very hard to learn. It's really experience. Experience is where it's at when you're placing a load in order to get those axle spacings and weights right. Now, when you're permitting a load, you guys hear me talk about that a lot on the channel. You can permit your axles a lot higher than that, but of course you need a permit for that. So steer tires, I think all steer tires now, you can permit up to 20,000 pounds, but that is all determined on the size of the tire, the width of the tire, rating of the tire, rating of the axle. Those are all things factored into what you're allowed to put on an axle, axle weight wise. And every state is a little bit different. Some states will give you 45, 46, 50,000 so on a tandem, some 20,000 to 24, 25,000 pounds per axle. Some states will only give you 18. So it's a state by state thing, and you really got to pay attention, because every dang state is just a little bit different, and their rules are just a little bit different. So if you're getting into permitting overweight loads on a multi-axle setup such as mine, because things change. The axle spacing, the 4'6" between the axles, 5 foot between the axles, that all changes how much the state will give you on per axle. So there is a lot of information that goes into how much weight you can put per axle, and it is very complicated. And I highly advise getting yourself a book for overweight loads, and it will show you what the maximum weight is that they'll give you. Sometimes it doesn't, like Virginia, for example. Virginia will permit you up to 44,000 on a standard dimensional overweight permit. If you can get more than 44,000 pounds on a tandem axle, but that kicks you into what they call super load status. They charge you a little bit more for it, and generally it takes a little bit longer for that permit to come back. I could go on talking about this for the next 2 days without missing a beat in my breath, and it probably still not provide you with all the information that you have to know about or need to know about how to plan your axle weights. But experience. That is where it's at when it comes to permitting for overweight loads. I know what my freight, I know where to position it and what it's going to do with each axle. So I kind of use past examples in future loads. I'd like this amphibious unit I'm going to get to. I know for a fact, because Gary did one with me. We weighed that thing. I know what that thing's going to weigh. I know what it's going to look like on the truck. I know exactly what it's going to end up being. So I'm able to permit that early. Now, until you get some experience under your belt, I do not recommend at all trying to order your permits early unless you have someone helping you that knows axle weights. I don't recommend it. You will screw it up and you will be wrong. So in the beginning of your career hauling overweight loads, I highly recommend getting your first state's permit, finding a scale, then ordering the rest of them. It sucks. I know it sucks because you have to wait for those permits, and a lot of times you might not be, if you load late in the day, you get that scale ticket, you're going to be waiting half a day, a couple hours in the morning to get the next state's permit. It sucks, but until you have that experience or have somebody that has that experience in your corner helping you out, that's what I highly recommend you do, because it is a living, breathing beast and is very hard to get right unless you have experience and know these numbers and know what you're doing. So get a book, find somebody with experience, and don't order your permits until you have that experience and know what your axle weights are going to be. That's my recommendation. I hope this helps answer the question that got asked about explaining axle weights and axle spacings. Now the spacings, the axle spacings is all just because they want to know how much. That helps them determine how much per axle they can put on each one. How far apart those axles are, how close together they are, that changes how much weight you're allowed to put on each axle. So that really is what axle spacing is about. Also, has to be accurate. I don't know why it has to be accurate. I don't know. Like, the only one that really changes ever is on Ghost, and this setup is 3 to 4, axle number 3 to 4, which is my last drive axle going to my first trailer axle. That's the only real part of all this that changes the dimension, because I can change my kingpin setting, I can change the fifth wheel location. There's a lot of things that can move and change that, but other than that, they all basically stay the same. There are a lot of other trailer that you can change. If you're on a sliding tandem axles, you can move those things, they change. So you got to be careful when you're permitting those that you get your axle spacings correct, because some states will ding you on it. Some states will get you and they'll make a believer out of you, and you don't want to be that guy. So I hope this helps. If it did, let me know in the comments. If it didn't, also let me know in the comments, and I will try to answer whatever question I didn't answer, explaining it here. So I appreciate everybody watching. If it's your first time watching the channel, I appreciate you tuning in. If you like what you see, hit that like button. If you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel. I appreciate that. Right now, I'm going to go in here, get a shower, get rid of this beard for now, unfortunately. Right when it gets cold, I gotta shave. Take a load that makes me shave my beard off. Doesn't make any sense, but we're gonna go get that done. We're gonna get this one delivered tomorrow, and then we're gonna pick up that amphibious, and I will show you a little bit of the amphibious unit on the next episode. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next one. Everybody stay safe out there.